gifts that she gave to us. Psalm 19 in the Bible says that the heavens declare the glory of God, that the skies proclaim the work of God's hands. Day after day they pour forth speech, night after night they reveal knowledge. There is no speech, there is no sound, and yet that voice is heard all through the world. As we gather today, we gather to remember the life that Debbie led, for the good that she built up, for the good that she aimed to be, to make happen and encourage in others. Speech that is much like the speech that this poet talks of when seeing the stars in the sky, that talk of the greatness and the goodness of God. So I want to welcome you again to our church space today. If you are looking for a restroom, they are through these double doors and downstairs. If you get hot, you can feel free to move around. If you get antsy and need to play with toys, or if you're under 12, the front room is loaded, and there's also sound in there, so you can go in there. It can get very loud here on College Avenue, so we have the doors open. If it gets loud and a siren comes by or something, I just want to give you the freedom to shut the doors so that we can hear what's happening. I want to invite you to a word of prayer as we continue our service. God, you are the beginning and the end, the creator and the giver and sustainer of all life. God, we give you thanks for Debbie. We give you thanks for David and for their family, for the gift of relationship and community. We come to tell you thank you, to give our gratitude, to mourn together, and to say goodbye. Next, we have a sung Hebrew prayer in Warren Malkoff. He's going to be singing that, a long-time friend of the family.
We do with a verse of Hine Mato, which means in English, how pleasant it is for people to dwell together in unity. So sing along if you know the song. Hine Mato Manai Sheverakim Gamyaka 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 Hine Mato Manai Hine Mato Manai Sheverakim. So on.
As we continue in our service, we are taking the time to tell some stories. There is a Presbyterian pastor named Frederick Buechner, who's also a Pulitzer Prize-winning novelist, and he says that we tell our stories, and he reflects an African proverb that says that you can only know what you look like if you look in a mirror. That sounds kind of stupid and kind of obvious, and yet that's really how it is. I have a bad cowlick, and I can only see it when I look in the mirror. The point that Frederick Buechner makes in all this is that it's when we share our stories, when we tell each other what we have experienced and been given in life, it's only then that we can start to glimpse the depth and the width of what life is and what life can become. And so we are going to have a time where we're going to hear some different comments and different stories and different memories about Debbie. We're going to start with David reading some emails, I believe, and then a few other selected people. And then towards the end of that time, we're going to open it up. And if you have something that you would like to share, we're going to invite you to do so. We have a microphone in the back. I'll be back there to help out. You do not have to give a 15-point sermon. You do not have to sing in Hebrew. It can be a funny memory. It can be a comment on anything. But a way to share a little story, to evoke and to remember Debbie and to give thanks for who she was and how she was in our midst. So I want to welcome David as he comes forward first to read some comments and share some thoughts.
Well, it looks as though Debbie has gotten us together again. I haven't, she didn't even try to break. I want to correct a couple of things, omissions really, in Debbie's life journey story. First, we're very glad that she has additional cousins. We see one frequently and saw the other frequently before she moved to Oaxaca, to the Pacific coast there. Very adventurous family. So the one who's with us is in our neighborhood is Peter Oaklander. He's his parents and 3 siblings. I think we've met almost all of them now. And Peter and his adventurous wife, Jan Suk, and their 2 boys live about an hour from us, and we're grateful for that. The other one, cousin of Debbie's, is Barbara Schaefer, who, as I say, moved to the Pacific coast of Oaxaca. Well, it's a wild place, and she seems right at home there. And I understand her son Gabe may be with us today. So I wanted to read a few of the emails, just a few that, though brief, particularly touched me. One of her students, adult ESL, that we saw a lot of when he was here, Hideaki Shimura. I'm very surprised and so sad. I saw her on this march. I thought she was normally fine. I really can't believe it. Debbie is the best amazing character in persons I have met. Her mind is forever. And Saida Sediji, I believe, I express my heartiest condolences for Debbie to all her family and friends, especially students. She was a wonderful teacher, lovely friend, and amazing character. May God bless her soul. Cousin Judy Judge, Debbie was a teacher to us all, not just English, but a teacher, excuse me, of how to live. It's terrible being a teenager again. A teacher of how to live life with gusto, passion, and joy. I have been fortunate to have had her in my life for the past 61 years as my cousin. She has had a big influence on who I am now and will always be a part of how I live my life. Hilda Maria Ortiz, get this right because I think Hilda's here. Hilda was a student of Debbie's ESL and has with her husband and 3 children stayed in our lives. Dios te bendiga, Deborah. Fuiste un ejemplo por tu carácter y personalidad y que les de resignación a tu esposo y hijos. So, God bless you, Deborah. You were an example through your character and personality. And condolences to husband and boys. Lucille Bellucci, Debbie was special at everything she did, especially at friendship. I shall miss her sorely. And Carita Silva, Brazilian young lady, seemed as if she were living with us. Debbie, she was a student of Debbie's, and Debbie hired her for one of her many publishing enterprises, the evidence of which is, of some of them is out in the front. This can't be for real. I remember her so full of life, always smiling and enthusiastic about her projects, but I also got the pleasure to work with her in one of them. Please, someone inbox me and tell me what happened. I send all my condolences. condolences to her family. And Margaret Canepa, she was one of the most joyous and enthusiastic persons I've ever known. One of Debbie's old friends she met in Cancun. There are several people like that who've been lifelong friends. This one is Anya's, and there's a brief email I'll read it. Thank you for your time on the phone giving me news from Debbie. I'm so sad to hear her health is coming down very fast every day. As I mentioned to you, I really want to see her and to be with her once again, even though she is not fully conscious and unable to speak to anybody. Debbie is like a sister for me. She is such a very important person, bringing me up several times in my life. We have lived together some wonderful moments with complicity and friendship. She deserves to receive visits of all her friends, offering spirituality and love to Debbie at such an important moment. Also, I would like to be with you, Leah and Arturo, and offer my support. Then, finally, our niece, Julie, whom Jules was our code name for her. Julie was raised in Alaska, and she's the vagabond veterinarian. She was inspired by our travel example, so she traveled too, to put it mildly. Okay.
Debbie Frisch was many things in my life, and there's no past tense about this. She is many things in my life. She is the reason I grabbed a passport and continue to see the world. She is the reason I painted over the drab tan and colored my Alaskan cabin door mango. She is the reason I strive to provide a place for people to come anytime, any way, and any drink to laugh, jam, people, and dance, and place my own. She is the reason I put on a dress, look sideways and coyly at myself, and think, do I look sexy in this? She is the reason I flip to the spicy section of the cookbook and think chocolate-flavored Muller sauce. She is the reason David, Arturo, Lee, Ranjana, and those boys are such an important part of my life. She is the glue that holds this segment of time and relationship together today, and it is now our job to care for it. Debbie exuded favor. The spicy, the sweet, the tangy. These are the tastes that will linger in my memory for a very, very long time. The mango is such a symbol of Debbie. Who can eat a mango without dripping in juices and laughing at its incredible flavor? There is no right way to do it, just bite it. I believe her teaching was a way to share her love for life. She unabashedly embraced life and ate it without apologizing for the lack of formal cutlery. And therein lies the big lesson Debbie had for each of us. Just grab the damn fruit of life and simply bite it. Get those life mangoes near and far and love every minute of it. Make a game of it. Make a meditative walk of it. Make it formal in a beer. Make it informal in a medley. You don't have to plan a perfect event or scrape together funds for that once-in-a-lifetime adventure. Every day is an adventure waiting to be saved. Debbie said she had a good run of life. Debbie, you sprinted in the world and somersaulted and skipped and pirouetted and sailed and kayaked, biked, snorkeled, and loved through life in a way we all admire. Being your student in life has been an honor, and I will always be learning from her. And as I sit in my lake cabin, watching the sunrise over the Alaskan range with this lovely man next to me, a loon coos in the distance, I know Debbie is here improving with her grandmate, radiant smile. Thank you, Miss Frisch, for giving me something so precious. The joy of just biting into the mango. Rest in party time like mutual deal. I call dibs on the seat next to you. Well, cheers.
If there's anybody else in the family who would like to say anything right now, this would be the time. And there are some readings from two of her literatures. Let's see. Lucille. but not for a reading.
I'm Lucille Bellucci. I salute and celebrate Debbie. We met when she joined the California Writers Club, and I was handling the 5th grade writers contest at the time. So eventually I handed the chair over to her, and she was fine with it. She took to it the same enthusiasm and inventiveness that she had throughout her life with any project she handled. On the second year, she called me and said, I have to talk to you about something. She said, this student sent in a story which is fantastic. It's beautifully written. It's very, very funny. But I don't know what to do because I can't see him reading the story as all the winners do. First, second, third, and 12th, 4th place students. I don't know what to do. I can't hear him reading this. So I said, let's meet. Well, I read the story, and it was very well done, very funny. I mean, this kid was going to be star comic in show business when he grew up. It went around the present he made his mother on Mother's Day. It was a potted plant, and she put it in their bathroom. And the family, for some reason, took it up as a reason to make jokes. Everybody made jokes about it, and some of them were very good. And this boy wrote beautifully about it. And of course, the title, Debbie and I laughed over it. It was Fleur de Loup was the title of the book. So she said, what would you do? She said, he deserves first place, but I can't have him do this. I can't have him read. I said, what would you do? She said, what would you do? So we went back with it. I said, finally, this is your call. After all, you're the chairperson right now. So she went home. The next day she called and she said, I solved it. I sent the kid a certificate congratulating him for 4th place, but I didn't tell him about the awards where he would have come to read it. And that was Debbie.
Debbie was my friend. We read each other's stories and we formed a writing critique group that focused on children's lit, and she came up with the name of Kitty Litters. She's the one that talked me into joining the California Writers Club, and she took over the 5th grade story contest, as Cecile said, and somehow I ended up as president. We often carpooled to meetings and recounted our publishing attempts. We delighted in each other's successes and encouraged each other after receiving many rejection letters, because the writer's life is that roller coaster of hope and disappointment. I got to read an early version of Mango for the teacher, her memoir, and we also sang together in the tenor section of the Berkeley Broadway Singers. When she started doing readings for her book, she started collecting Mango colored clothing accessories. And so I realized I didn't have anything that was really mango colored, but I wanted to honor her somehow, so this is sort of this is more papaya, but I thought that was I wanted to honor her by reading something from her book. And it was a little bit hard choosing something because there are lots of really funny parts, and I usually go for funny. But this part spoke to me more about Deb. And I hope I pronounced the Spanish name right, but I don't think he's here, so it's okay. As Manolo walked me home from lunch at his aunt's house, we passed a shapely fleur de mayo tree. In Hawaii, they call it French iconi. The creamy white petals of the flower fan out in a spiral, each petal edged with dark red and bright hot yellow. Chanel chose this scent for her divine perfume number 9. Its aroma intoxicates, slows your step, makes you sigh. That's my favorite flower, I told Manolo. He released my hand and walked over to the tree, an element in the landscaping of a small hotel's garden. He's going to pick me one, I thought, watching him size up the tree and its location. But instead, Manolo grasped a green branch from which he grew 3 or 4 smaller branches tipped with flowers and simply snapped it off. White milk flowed from the broken lid in Manolo's brown hand. I looked around. No one was watching. Back at my house, Manolo half-filled a large glass with water and put the broken end of the green branch into it. The flowers were still there the next day and the day after. New buds opened, its warm perfume enhanced my days. Manolo examined the broken end of the branch every time he returned to see me. He asked me to give it fresh water when he couldn't. After a week, he pointed out small, fuzzy buds at the bases and the sides of the branch. They grew into white shoots, and within 2 weeks, they were rudimentary roots. Then Manolo dug a deep hole not far from the front steps. How deep are you digging? I asked, a little put out by his presumptuousness. Deep enough, he smiled, into the hole without a pause in his digging. Large stones went into the bottom, a hole for good drainage, then smaller ones. He planted the branch carefully, making a little furrow around the hole. I held the branch straight and filled the space around with moist soil. The fleur de mayo took root. Flowers fell off, but emerald-colored leaves appeared, vertical and umbrellas. The branches elongated, swelled, and grew. It was raining regularly, northerly storms followed by days of drizzle and dripping. Afternoons, the sun emerged low on the horizon and steam rose from the sidewalks. Rochona, they call it. Fresh downpours followed in the evening. Between rain, the leaves unfurled and more branches appeared. Soon it became to luscious, fragrant. And Debbie was very much that luscious, fragrant food, and she definitely took care of it.
I'm Dave's brother. Sorry. Debbie was all the things that wasn't. It's great. I remember taking the kids to Cancun for spring break. So of course we had they were 5 and 7. We had to do the Easter egg hunt with the trip. It was great. I really want to thank you, Ray. Thank you for your name for being here this whole time. Is Andy here? Is Andy here? I don't know if I'm supposed to page you. Are you next? Or I want to thank you too. I want to thank everybody. Lorraine lives in Davis, and she basically just picked up and was here the whole time. And a long time. You've known her for like 30, 40 years. That's kind of how we did it. So Ed is a close neighbor, just down the street, basically. So,
Hi everyone. Arturo, first son, Lee, second. Doesn't matter. It's just like so many things I wanted to talk about. Just how magical experiences have been growing in life. How magical it was for preparation for the next passing and smiling all the way through it. The last things that she wanted to do is getting up and dancing. Still want to dance. She's dancing all the time. A lot of love. Living in love, and I think friend Deborah O'Brien said it's the summer of love. This is really the summer of love. And just so much love and so many good friends, old and new. What's that song? Make new friends. And all the same, everybody's beautiful, everybody's been great. And I just think I'm going to sing a song instead of keeping on trying to figure out what I'm going to say. She got me in the capoeira. She got me and she got me in the capoeira. It's in us. What are we going to do? It's an apology also to Sensei, because I know the words might not be exactly right.
As Debbie's oldest friend, or I should say longest term friend, I wanted to say a few words about her life before Berkeley. I had the great good fortune to meet Debbie when we were 8 years old in the growing suburb of Plainview, Long Island, New York. And our families became very close. So Debbie's mother, Lee, became best friends with my mother. Her father, Irving, became buddies with my father. Her older brother, Jeffrey, became friends with my older brother. Debbie and I were close, and then my younger brother was relegated to the Frisch's dog, Bambi. Grade school Debbie had all of the delightful qualities that she displayed as an adult. She was social, very social and sociable. She put high priority on her friends. She was very creative, endlessly energetic, always up for the next adventure and the next party, and was optimistic and positive. As her brother Jeffrey put it, Debbie always rounded up. I shared many an adventure with Debbie, mostly thanks to her adventurous spirit. One time, we were walking along the shoreline at Jones Beach. We were still pretty young. This is on the south shore of Long Island. And we came upon a group of guys who were surfing. And Debbie, in her usual friendly manner, began chatting with them. And before I knew it, she had arranged for us to try out their surfboards. And I remember wiping out very badly. Deb liked to sing, and we would sing songs while we walked. We had songs of different lengths for different length walks. And our longest song was the Ballad of Mattie Groves, which we got from a Joan Baez album, which we would say for our longest walks because it had a lot of verses. And we would have whole conversations using lines from songs, entirely in lines from songs. When the Beatles came to the U.S., we went to hear them perform at Forest Hills Tennis Stadium. And the audience was screaming so loud you couldn't even tell what song the Beatles were singing. One of the best adventures we had was when we were 17 and we drove up to the White Mountains in New Hampshire to climb Mount Washington. They had a network of these Appalachian Mountain Club huts where you could hike all day and then you could have supper and sleep at a hut. So we started out in the morning up Mount Washington, and it was sunny and pleasant, but there were all these signs saying, this area has some of the worst weather in North America. Turn back at the first sign of bad weather. But by the afternoon, we had gotten above the tree line, and we were on this gold-faced rock, and all of a sudden the weather changed completely, and we were caught in a severe thunderstorm with the lightning striking all around us. To distract ourselves, we pretended to see Yeti, abominable snowman. When we finally got to the hut, the staff regaled us with stories of hikers who had been zapped by lightning on the rocks and molded to the rock. In high school, in our friendship circle, Deborah Frisch was known as Fribbera Dish, and I still think of her as Fribby or Frib. During the years Debbie lived in Cancun and ran her language school, I was able to visit her several times, and everywhere we went, we ran into students of hers who obviously were very fond of their beloved maestra. Deb also visited me in Berkeley, and she decided that if she ever left Cancun, Berkeley was the place to be. On one of my visits to Cancun, Debbie's friend Moses came down from New York, and we drove down through the Yucatan into Belize and then into northern Guatemala to go to the amazing Mayan ruins at Tikal. And we snuck into the ruins at night and climbed up on the pyramids, and we were dancing on the pyramids under the stars. So I'll leave you with that image of Fribbera Dish dancing on top of the pyramids.
When I think of Debbie and her 500 closest friends, just like when we're here today. Shortly after Debbie became friends with David, they visited our house, and one of the first things I think I did, I asked her if she liked a drink, and the response to that was, I never met a drink I didn't like. When I think of Debbie, I've always thought I've never met a person I didn't like, because she was the most social creature I think I've ever met. Having said that, I didn't think she ever judged anything or anyone. One night they were over to my home to visit, and in the neighborhood someone was flying a flag. United States flag, and when she came in the house, she was a little bit heated about some patriot And the next day, she wrote me a nice email saying. So I think the thing that I know, and I want to make sure that David knows, the gathering here today, David, represents that Debbie will live on a long time, not just in your life, but in the lives of these people, and particularly the lives of your two sons. And I'm so happy to say that it was true. It was a very special union, and Debbie has been proud of you, will always be proud of you. I look forward to continuing our relationship. Thank you.
My name is Edna Beth Rubin, and I met Deborah in 1988 right after she moved to Berkeley because our tour and my son Noah were in first grade together. And we were both single moms in our early 40s, and we had some pretty good times. But the only story I'm going to just mention today is that she met David, and I met David, and he seemed like a really nice fellow. And it seemed to be very shortly and rather precipitously, she's moving in with David. She told me I really recommend moving in with David. And I'm the sort of person, when I eat a mango, I always have a napkin nearby. So, I wasn't, I think I seemed like I was soon. And I said so. And she looked me straight in the eyes and she said, "That's my name." When I visited Debbie and sent her out to hospital, she had written an essay beginning in late July and early August, and this was about the 5th of August. And when I came into her room, there were a lot of other people there, so I stayed for quite a while, and we socialized together and talked to nurses and just sort of people there. But when the room cleared out after a while, she booted up her laptop, which had been on her lap, and she pulled up this essay she wrote, and she said, "I want you to read this out to me." So I read the essay that she wrote, and I said to her, "This is really good. We should do something with this." Of course, I didn't have any ideas of what, because that was Daddy's role to have the ideas. But I said it was really, really good. And a few days later, when she came home, she told me that she wanted me to read it at David's birthday party, the 70th birthday party, because she wanted to share it with as many people as she could. And she didn't feel that she would have the strength of voice to read it herself. So I did read it. And at that party, several other people suggested that perhaps we could go beyond that, and perhaps it could be put on K3D as a perspectives. And I had suggested This American Life. So I came over several times, and she and I sat at the dining room table, and she had me read the essay to her over and over and over again, and she edited it. She didn't do it physically. I had to make the edits. She was pretty weak at that point, but she made little changes. I was so impressed with her obvious writing skill and how she edited the work. It was just beautiful. And we cut it down a little bit, or I should say she cut it down a little bit in order to try to get it within the very strict timeline that Perspectives has, but we unfortunately didn't succeed in that. But David asked me to read this to you today. And some of you, of course, have heard this already, and others have not. So these are Debbie's words, and they sound just like her. She entitled it, "Go No." In Woody Allen's hilarious Take the Money and Run, police asked the protagonist's ex-girlfriend whether she had an inkling years earlier that he would become a criminal mastermind. "Are you kidding?" she shoots back in a piercing Brooklynese. "I just thought he was a schlemiel. Go no, right?" I had my go no moment in a California hospital room some weeks ago. This one wasn't funny. After sporadic episodes of pain starting 5 or 6 years ago, radiating from a silver dollar-sized spot on my back under my bra band and throughout my abdomen, I stopped wearing a bra altogether. But this late in the game, the pain didn't go away. The sad-eyed young surgeon who had just looked at my CT scan was explaining the cause: cancer of the pancreas. And for years, I just thought it was my bra. For at least 3 years, I had always wanted to take my bra off after dinner, and then after lunch, too. I stopped wearing bras with underwire. Awfully jiggly, those stretch bras. Blouses I had worn before no longer fit, but I made the sacrifice. I started unlatching 1 or 2 hooks after lunch and wearing more jackets and bulky sweaters. Sometimes I would find some awkward way to rehook 1 hook later in the afternoon, only to take the whole bra off after dinner. Every day I was maligning Maidenform, berating Bali. I was outraged at Olga with her $60 price tag and her claim that I'd never want to wear another bra again. There was a year when I gained 5 or 6 pounds, so it was not surprising that my bra size went from a 34B to 36C. But the bigger bra didn't give me greater comfort. After a meal, braless was the only way to go. I complained a little to my women friends, and they would offer to lend me one that worked for them. Or they said, "You're lucky. I wish I had something to put into a C-cup." Or that I looked great, bra or no bra. My husband heard about it too. On a trip to New York City 3 years ago, I insisted on spending several hours shopping at Bloomingdale's, where the lingerie saleswoman is a specialist, and the price of special bras runs to 3 figures. My husband is a pediatrician, but he didn't look at my issue from a medical point of view any more than I did. He only likes to see my bra when I'm taking it off. So, how is this pain under the bra related to my pancreatic cancer? I feel both pains in the same places. I've asked my oncologists, local and research, whether bra intolerance could be cancer pain in disguise. They said they doubted it. So, what do I want my listeners to think about? That any small, persistent, or recurring pains throughout the body might not be external in source, but rather something to look into. Wishing you the best of health. And with your permission, David, I would like just to close with Tehillim to Psalms 90, a line from Psalms 90. Limnot yameinu kein hoda v'navi levav chochma. Teach us to treasure each day that we may open our hearts to your wisdom.
Julie Castro Rosco. The Rosco family is sad. Passing of our friend, Debbie Frisch. Debbie was a person so full of life and energy and drive. I first met David, who became our son Pablo's pediatrician. And David told me about his wife, who was also 40-something and expected. Later we became friends as Centro Vida Preschool moms, later Capoeira moms. I greatly admired this woman and for all her accomplishments. Running the Chiquilango language school in Cancun, mastering the Spanish language, teaching English in the Berkeley enrichment schools, developing educational materials. I still use the Bilingues Loteria game in my classes in Watsonville. In addition to having raised and supported 2 wonderful boys, Lee and Arturo. Having fallen in love with Mexico and its language and culture myself, I thoroughly enjoyed reading her book, Mango for the Teacher, which was given positive reviews in the New Yorker and by Amazon. She graciously shared her house in Cancun with us, her experience. She opened up her home at the Chiquilango School and loaned us the infamous VW Bug, in which we had some of our own adventures. To Debbie, wherever you are, salud, suerte, chin chin.
I was reminded as I was listening, one of the last times I talked with Debbie on the phone, just her and I, it was a long time ago, and she called, and she was calling me as David's pastor, and she was asking me if I could help David leave church quicker. I said, I don't understand. I'm just trying to get him to talk less. And I said, I don't think I can help you. She was a remarkable woman, as we evoked in the stories. A truth teller. She lived for truth. She was a woman of action, a woman who knew how to celebrate, a woman who knew what life was. It's easy in services like this to remember all of the perfect things and the peachy things or the mango things. And she had gone through hard times as well, and she went through hard times, both her and David, in the past couple months. And yet she had a spice or a zest for life that was obviously contagious, as I think that everyone here caught it a little bit. As we continue in our service, we come to the time, it's the conclusion of sharing stories. Okay, it's going to be one more. So I'll see my comments after that.
Hi, I'm Joe Chernick. I want to start by just telling you very briefly 2 short stories. About 20 years ago, I was playing with my oldest daughter at the Live Oak Park. And in the distance, I heard a woman yelling for her son. She cried out for Lee. Lee, she said. I immediately took notice and saw this woman, and I ran up to her with my daughter in my arms. Lee Frisch. She said, Lee Frisch. That was my mother. Her mother had died. Debbie's mother died in the 60s, I believe. I've known of Debbie my entire life. I got to know her a couple of years ago. Actually, some years ago. Actually, I got to know her at that park 20 years ago. Lee Frisch, she said, that's my mother. I said, you look just like your mother. Her mother, after all, and her father are formed my earliest memories as a little boy. My parents and her parents, my mother especially, and her mother were, well, like Rivka said, about her mom and about her, they were best of friends. Now I want to fast forward to about a year ago. There was a knock at the door. Nice young man said, I can chop down your tree. I said, it was dead. Clarification, it was dead. Well, to make a long story short, he came to our house a little while later to chop down the tree, bringing with him his young son. I'd never met this guy before he knocked at the door. But my daughter said, I think I recognize that boy. And as he was cutting the tree, and during that time he walked to get something, I said, hold on a second. Do you know Debbie Frisch? He said, that's my mother. This is a story about generations. If my mother were here, she'd be speaking right now. Because Debbie was a bright, bright spirit. Like I said, I've known of her. I really knew her parents really well. But I've gotten the privilege, like many of you, of knowing her really, really well. Those big, 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 bright eyes. Saying what she wanted to say and meaning it with all her heart. She carried no pretense. She was just a good soul. I might add, just like her mother. Thank you.
Part of the paradox, I think, of sharing stories is that the more you hear them, the more you start to remember them. And it points to the complexity of being human, and that no one person can know everything about another person. It's only really a life in community in which we find out who we are and we become who we were made to be. We are reading two scriptures today as we gather, recognizing the dual nature, you might say, of Debbie and David's family as a child of Abraham and as an adopted child of Abraham by faith. So today we're reading two scriptures. One comes from Isaiah chapter 2, verses 1 to 5. It is a vision of what God wants for the world to be. And the second reading comes from Matthew 5, and it is Jesus' take on that vision and what that should look like in the world. The first reading comes from Isaiah chapter 2. I'm just going to read it in English, as my Hebrew is really quite rusty. This is what Isaiah, son of Amos, saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. In the last days, the mountain of the Lord's temple will be established as the highest of the mountains, and it will be exalted above the hills, and all of the nations will stream to it. Many peoples will come, and they will say, "Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the temple of the God of Jacob. For he will teach us his ways, so that we may walk in his paths. The law will go out from Zion, the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. And he will judge between the nations, and he will settle disputes for many peoples. And they will beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation will not take up sword against nation, nor will they train for war anymore. Come, descendants of Jacob, let us walk in the light of the Lord." Second reading from Matthew. Now when Jesus saw the crowds, he went up on a mountainside and he sat down. And his disciples came to him, and so he began to teach them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God. And blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." The word of the Lord. Both scriptures point to the paradox of what God wants for the world and what we find ourselves stuck in the world. It is a vision in which weapons of destruction are turned into weapons for harvest, tools for food. Things that divide become things that unite. Jesus, in his retelling of that same vision, paints the world upside down. That where things are broken is where they are most whole. That the ones who seem the most weak and least important are at the heart of what God wants from them. Debbie lived her life trying to make that happen. Whether she was conscious of that or not, I couldn't tell you. But the way that she lived, her ethics, her force, her power, her choices, her commitments, sought to make that vision reality. Not just poetry on a page, but the way in which we know the world. Whether that was with English learners or with immigrants, working with children in Berkeley, or working with her own children, she fought and sought to make that vision come true. In our two traditions, Jewish and Christian, there is nothing greater than trying to do the will of the Lord, is what the scriptures say. To not just talk about faith, but to live it. To not just talk about peace, but to make it. To not just think about justice, but to work for it. Debbie serves as a reminder of that, as as a beacon, as a light that sought to make that happen. Our traditions believe that God rewards that, or I actually think the word recognizes is better than reward. That God doesn't invite us to do good in order to get good, but that we are invited to do good because we know what good is. We have a slideshow next, I believe, that Arturo has made, and others, and some music. Do you have music? All right, so we're going to set that up. And get ready for that.
Back again. You keep seeing me. Alright, so there's so much music we can dedicate. I actually kind of like everything. Just really especially love certain good music, and we actually didn't coordinate everything together, and I don't have the last CD. Anyway, we found a cassette because we spend money on certain things that we really value, and other things sometimes just like, all right, whatever. So our Prius, the shift doesn't work really well when we gotta put the brakes on, and CD player busted, radio's kind of but the cassette player works real good. And we found a cassette in a box in the glove compartment, and it's got it's her singing. Garota de Ipanema, girl from Ipanema. So just really her and her song, the way she is, and I'm going to start that with the slideshow, and whatever else is on there, I think it's just her singing. Enjoy.
more for being part of my mom's life. It means a lot, you know. Nothing but love. Nothing but love. We wouldn't want to hear about anything else. You know, we couldn't talk about Palestine, we couldn't talk about Syria, we couldn't talk about anything else. As we love. Thank you very much.
I'm going to help us move along. So we're going to let the slideshow keep on going. I'm assuming that it's going for a while still, which is fine. And we're going to continue with our service. We're going to close with a prayer and also with an invitation. We've heard a lot about Debbie. We've remembered a lot. One of my first memories was going to dinner at their house and discovering that there were about 8 kegs of beer downstairs, each one different. And you had to have a different one with each course. David is one of the best people you could ever have on a church committee. He used to bring beer. There's funny stories about Debbie and David, but he would bring beer to me all the time, and he would hide it in the front office where the toys are, is where I supposedly work. And I didn't know he'd been doing that for months. And all of the drawers were filled with bottles of beer. So as he came over the other day to help plan for the service, he was checking all the drawers to make sure that I had not missed out. So you can see in the bulletin where there's the story of Debbie's life. There's also invitation and directions to come to their home for a reception, and I'm sure there'll be some beer and some music and other things. If you have not been to the house recently, it was painted and was just finished, and it was one of Debbie's big wishes, and she got to see it, and it is beautiful. You will not miss it as you drive down the street, and the warmth of that green will just pull you right into the house. If you look at the little obituary that we have, it's also on the Kiwi Pediatrics website. That's also, if you would like to give a memorial gift in remembering Debbie, you can do so to the Berkeley Schools Enrichment Program or to the Berkeley Public Library is what the family asks if you would like to do that. So as we finish today, I want to encourage you to keep telling stories. That's what beer and mangoes and food and music are all made for. Remembering and saying goodbye. And I believe it's really saying thank you, that's what we do when we gather like this. Thank you to Debbie for who she was. Thank you to the Holy One for how life is created. So please join with me in prayer. We will close our service. There'll be some more music. I know that a lot of people didn't get assigned the book. My English is failing me, sorry. Should have gone to Cancun for classes. And you can sign that if you didn't get a chance to do that on your way out. I know that David and the family are probably going to scoot, so if you don't see them, they are scooting to their house to prepare to welcome you to the new greenhouse with all of the food. So we want to free them to do what they need to do to welcome us to their home. So please join me with prayer as we close our service today. Holy One, we are reminded of the gift of life and the depth of life through music, through word, through silence, through images. God, we thank you for Debbie, for who she was as a wife, as a mother, as a grandmother, as a friend and a neighbor and a colleague. Thank you for that gift. May she know the peace that is spoken of in the readings. A peace where elements of war become tools for harvest. Amen.
Thank you.